We are in a state where language has often led to some scenarios on the streets, and Sahil and I have often agreed and disagreed on the same issue, that when it is about language, should you respect the language of a state and learn? And can language be a tool of assertion at the same time? So I'm going to begin with you, Professor Jadhav. As an economist and also as an educationist, when we look at various sides of this language discussion or debate, where do you stand?
Say that again, please.
Where do you stand on this entire language issue? Should language be about linguistic identity as it is? And should that be the dominant idea of a state as much as an individual?
Well, I look at it this way. Every language represents a culture. And the diversity of languages that we have is our great strength. The debate that is currently going on is about possible imposition of Hindi as a language all over. I think, this is an issue which has been debated, and politically it has been a very sensitive issue in the recent past, and people have opposed imposition of Hindi as the third language to be taught from the first level. Here I must tell you a little bit of background. If you look at all the education commissions, from Kothari Commission to 1986 mission to 2020 National Education Policy, all of them have talked about 3 languages for school. 3 languages. And they have said that consistently, this has been the position, that this 3 language formula should be applied not necessarily from the first standard, but it is to be applied at various stages in a gradual manner. They have never said that this is compulsory. They have only said that this is something which is suggested. Now what has happened is, in Maharashtra as of now, the 3 language formula is already there. Marathi, Hindi, and Marathi, English and Hindi. But Hindi starts at the 5th level. What happened was, after the national education policy came out, all states appointed their own missions to translate the national education policy for their own state. In Maharashtra, there was the Dr. Mashelkar committee appointed. Dr. Mashelkar is a very renowned scientist. Under his chairmanship, a committee was appointed. And the committee in the national education policy came in 2020, and in 2021, the committee submitted a comprehensive report. The report is fine, excepting when it comes to the language problem. In the language problem, they suggested that the 3 language formula should be applied from level 1, grade 1 to grade 12, compulsorily. All 3 languages at the same time from 1st to 12th. This happened in 2021. Nobody paid any attention to it. It was never debated, never discussed. It is not clear whether government at that time took a decision. But in 25, this year, the chief minister implemented that, or tried to implement that. And then hell broke loose, and all the Marathi different people from different political parties, but mainly led by Thackeray's, they all got together, and there was a furor, and people rejected that outright, and that's why the Honorable Chief Minister of Maharashtra withdrew that and appointed a new committee. Okay. The GR was taken back, and a new committee was appointed, and I'm chairing that committee. This committee is supposed to decide which language should be made compulsory at what stage.
Well, it is very interesting that you are a chairman of that committee, and
Right.
that committee is yet to come up with the report.
Right.
But the Chief Minister has already said that they will be implementing this three-language formula from Standard 1 as per the new education policy.
No.
He said it in my interview.
No.
But but my question is different.
That GR has been withdrawn.
I understand, but after that, after your committee has been appointed, the GR has been issued. The Chief Minister has said that they have a mandate and they will be implementing this policy. But my question is not that. My question is that, very interestingly, you said possible imposition of Hindi. So is it what? I mean, is it a issue, if you look at from the parents' point of view, from the students' point of view, that they do not want to learn three languages and burden the students from the Standard 1? Or is it this imposition of Hindi? They don't mind learning English, but there is a problem of learning Hindi from Standard 1. Is that an issue?
No, that is not the issue. The issue here is teaching too many languages too early in the stage. It is generally understood. If you look at all the experts, what they are saying, basically, mother tongue is the best medium of instruction. That must be there to begin with. What happens is when multiple languages are taught right from the day one, three language, full-fledged, developed languages with all their grammar, their own syntax, their own traditions, it becomes such a big burden on them that they don't learn any one of the languages properly.
No, but Professor Ajay, this question, I want to direct to you, because there is a talk, especially in the western side of India and the southern India as well, that ever since the BJP has come to power, they have been talking about assimilating the society. And, they think that the only way they can assimilate the society by putting Hindi as a compulsory language in all the states. Whereas the students from the Hindi belt, what we call, they don't need to learn three languages from Standard 1. Whereas the students from the western side of India and the southern side of India will need to learn the three languages. Is that the reason why we are seeing the opposition from the linguistic states, where the states have been formed on the basis of the language?
Well, Sahil, this language question in India for far too long has been debated in a very insular way, as if it's only about language. The reality is that linguistic question is linked to other identities of caste,
Right.
Yeah.
class, region, and religion. The four other dimensions. What is causing uproar on the ground in state after state is not just about language and is not a question of imposition. If you go back in history, during the colonial period, it was the dominant upper caste who were pro-English. They were the first one to get Western education. They were the first one to get English education under the colonial rule, to become judicial and revenue officers. They developed taste in...
The upper caste, basically.
Basically upper caste in good English goods, including good wine, some of which we are hoping to get today's cocktail. That's where the wine drinking started, with the upper caste. And 1957, look at the interesting contrast, the lower caste of India, especially the backward caste, led by Mr. Lohia in 1957, had a Angrezi Hatao movement.
Right.
They were opposed to English. Mulayam Singh said that burn English because English corrupts society. And he said farmer's child can never aspire to be an IAS if you have English. Cut 2000. 50 years down the lane.
Post-globalization.
Post-globalization. Today you have the dominant caste led by the BJP and the RSS who are talking about protection of Indian culture, who are talking about protection of Indian languages, who are talking about protection of Hindi as a national language, while the lower castes have moved on. The Dalits
And they want to learn English.
Exactly. The Dalits in India today want exclusive English education. Andhra Pradesh government 2 years back legislated that all government schools will have mandatory English medium education. And Dalits and OBCs don't think not learning Hindi or not getting educated in regional medium is any threat to Indian culture. Culture has its own place. But they are seeing English not as some colonial relic, but it's a new economic infrastructure in globalized. You cannot have globalized economy, then you cannot go back to Hindi. As you know, that's one caste dimension. There's also a religious dimension to this question. Tamil Nadu, when it opposes Hindi, it is not merely imposition of Hindi as a language.
Yeah.
It is the Indo-Aryan culture that, you are trying to bring through Hindi, through Sanskrit. Hindi in the heartland has, old history between Hindi and Hindustani. Hindi in the Sanskritic, Devanagari and Hindustani had Urdu and Persian. So you also have a religious connotation in Tamil Nadu. So you have all these variables why people are anxious as to what will happen to other identities, other economic opportunities. Is it a question of caste and class exclusion in the name of cultural nationalism?
So
Okay.
you mean to say,
Please go ahead.
yeah, just one question about it. That you mean to say that the people from the southern India and the western side of, the linguistic states specifically, they are negating the idea that Hindi is, taking Hindi as a language means you are sticking to the Indian culture. According to you, it is not so. They want to learn English than going for Hindi. Is that?
No, there are two interesting things that have happened. Actually, the resistance to Hindi as spoken colloquial language is much less today, even in South. People don't mind learning Hindi, Everybody speaks Hindi, like state I come from. What they're worried about is imposition of Hindi, standardized literary Hindi for governmental administrative purposes.
They don't mind speaking.
Not at all. That's the change that has come. And my worry is...
Not in the official books.
Exactly. And my worry is the current government's intention will take us back 50 years because even the spoken Hindi resistance will come back. Tamil Nadu in 50s had even resistance to spoken Hindi because they thought this is a complete imposition of Indo-Aryan culture. 50 years, what globalization has done, one good side of globalization, it has loosened up identities where people now don't mind Hindi as a spoken. But if you go back to Mr. Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah's statement, where he says, in 10 years period, people will feel ashamed of speaking in English. And then you'll have to only speak Hindi, not only for spoken purpose, but also administrative educational purposes, where you'll have even STEM in Hindi. That's when people will start opposing. This is a deliberate incitement of an issue that has died out since period of globalization.
Okay, so we are looking at a period where AI and translation technologies are a reality. Then where do we stand in this language debate?
Now things have come to such a big stage, advanced stage, that translating from any language to any other language
In real time.
And in real time is possible. There is somebody in Pune who has made there's an instrument which translates 370 languages,
Yes.
one from other. So question is whether there should be an academic overload. Again, I'm looking at it only from the education point of view, not the political angle. Political angle is different.
So,
angle.
Professor Jadhav, that brings me to my question, because do you think then the hierarchies which exist in language will actually gradually end with AI and technologies which are very, very translation friendly?
I do not know what will happen in future, but it's very clear to me that teaching too many languages all at once from the beginning is certainly going to make not multilingual experts, but it will create people with very little creativity, because students would be lost in the grammar and the syntax and all the details that go with the different languages. Instead of that, they should focus on fewer languages, and English, there's no substitute for English in my opinion, because in the globalized world,
Yes.
without English, there is no future. For foreseeable period of time. We don't know what will happen in the distant future.
So you think that the prediction of the Home Minister is not going to
No,
come
I'm
into
not going to
reality?
comment on that. I don't want to take a political view at all. But I'm not going to be ashamed 10 years or 20 years from now that I speak English, that I can speak English. About the caste angle that Ajay was saying, there is a subtle dimension there. I would urge you that whenever we refer to caste, so-called lower caste, so-called upper caste, that adjective is very important. Second thing that I want to say is that it is the purity of language which has a caste dimension. In Maharashtra, for example, there are so many dialects. As a child, I would never open my mouth in the class, although I was the topper all the time. Why? Because whenever I opened my mouth, everybody would start laughing. Because I was speaking a dialect coming from a particular region.
Not in a purest way of.
What is pure and impure? I learned that later.
No, but this is very interesting. Professor Jadhav, this is very interesting. Professor Jadhav's autobiography, Amcha Baap Ani Ami, written in Marathi. It's very interesting anecdote in that book that his father used to insist that he should speak in English, even with him. He couldn't speak a word from English. But he has mentioned that his father used to mention that he should speak in English, and he used to make him read the signboards of various shops which are written in English. So that was the insistence of English. That is something very interesting. Your father never asked you to speak in Hindi or read the Hindi signboards, whereas he insisted that you should learn English.
The reason being, that English, there is no substitute for that for foreseeable future, A. And B, coming back to the purity of the caste. It is the upper caste, which is the good Marathi, one which is spoken in Pune. What does that mean? That means language spoken by Brahmins of Maharashtra. That is the standardized language. A slight variation of that and it indicates your caste. So-called lower caste. So it is the purity of caste which has a purity of language that has a caste dimension.
But then, Professor Ajay, my question is whether this question of language, is it linguistic, is it cultural, or it has become political, or it is economical?
No, it has all these dimensions, Sahil. That the key question is in terms of access. The key question is in terms of exclusion, right? Both. It's not just caste. I also talk about religious minorities. Sanskritic Hindi that is being pushed. Look at the names that have been given to the new legal system. Danda Sahita. It's a very Sanskritic, So that's an Indo-Aryan culture which has come against Urdu and Persian and Arabic influence. So there's that religious discriminatory exclusionary angle. There is also the caste, which is a very predominant angle. And this goes not just with the linguistic question. This goes with the overall shift that has come in the policy making, which I'll make you an interesting link with the national education policy. Professor Jadhav already referred to it. There, from 1st to 8th standard, they have made vocational training. There's certain vocationalization of education. Students can drop out in 8th standard, 10th standard, 12th standard. I've never seen a national document all over the world that encourage students to get educated. Here, our national education policy is giving you multiple exit options, right? And then you move on to. This again has caste connotation.
That may be because the education is linked with, earning your living. And, to prepare a child to earn his or her living.
That is connecting it with employability.
Yes, exactly. But that state education is a public good. It's state responsibility to get its citizens. Look at the amount China is investing in its education. We are competing with China all the time. Okay. But if you keep allowing students to drop out, then obviously your education is going to be of a difference. So I read linguistic question, linguistic exclusion with the new educational structure, which is also pushing us somewhere towards exclusions of multiple kinds.
So let's try and wrap up this conversation with a question which is to both of you. What is India's linguistic future?
Please go ahead. Point to make. If you look at the latest ASER report, that is annual status of education report, which is published by Pratham, they have come out with this report which shows that 50% students in the rural areas do not, at the 5th grade level, they cannot read 2nd grade level book in any language. This is what will tell you that
not even in their mother tongue.
Sorry?
Not even in their mother tongue.
Not even in their mother tongue. Not even any one of the 3 languages. This is what happens if we impose too many languages to begin with, and that kind of academic, it can create a creative clutter in the minds of people which refrains from their developing their productivity and their creativity. I think we have to be very careful about it.
Well, I think Narendra Jadhav is already telling his report. He's already saying that
I have said that before.
Yes.
But it is not clear from which level which language would become compulsory. And for that, we are going to take feedback from all stakeholders in Maharashtra.
Okay. just 30 seconds to you. What is India's linguistic future then? And perhaps let's, talk about Maharashtra's linguistic future.
Well, Myra, all linguistic future is linked to question of access, right?
Okay.
If you have private schooling, public schooling difference, if under economic survey under last 10 years, 1 lakh government schools have closed down. So the question is about access. So you cannot discuss linguistic question in an insular manner, only linking it to culture and Marathi. People in Maharashtra, when they protest for Marathi, there are these questions of anxieties of exclusion, which is what should be the center of the debate.
All right. Thank you so much.
And those who are agitating are not against Hindi per se. Please note that.
Yes.
They
They're
are not saying that instead of 3 language formula, there should be 2 language formula.
Sure.
They are saying that no imposition of Hindi from grade 1. That is the issue which is missed out in the bigger debate.
Professor Jadhav and Professor Jay, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.